Hey, Shalom, Micah, Shalom. First and foremost, as always, I would like to give all praise, all honor, and all glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak Wadash. I would like to give double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and that's still teaching this truth. And much peace, love, and salutation to the elect, beginning with the 144,000, all the way down to the large multitude that believes and who the Lord will deliver in these last days. To you all I say Shalom. I'm the brother Tazamah from the Great Millstone Dallas camp, coming back today with another lesson. And I pray this lesson will be edifying to the elect. And also, too, Lord willing, this will be to a degree, a series of lessons that I plan on doing. The Spirit jumped on me yesterday to want to go into the book of Micah and do a breakdown on the whole book. Now, of course, this is going to be spread out within 7 different lessons, and I'm not saying that every lesson will be each chapter, because of course there's going to be different lessons that come out within the days and the weeks and things of that nature. But through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai, I do plan on doing a breakdown on the whole book of Micah, and Lord willing, once I'm done with it, I'll just put it into a playlist, whereas it'll just be the whole book, whereas you can go through each chapter. But yeah, like I said, I just want to go through this book. It's not a long book. It is 7 chapters, but as we know, this is a prophetic book, whereas it does give place of particular events that have already happened, as well as future events that are to come. All right. And when you read the book of Micah, well, first and foremost, Micah prophesied around the 8th century BCE. So he was a contemporary, if you will, with the prophet Isaiah, as well as the prophet Hosea. Now, Hosea prophesied to the northern kingdom, if I'm not mistaken. As a matter of fact, let me just prove that real quick. I want to verify. I want to verify what I'm saying. Hosea prophesied. To the northern kingdom. Come on now, northern kingdom. Right, I just want to verify. It says, yes, Hosea prophesied primarily to the northern kingdom of Israel. He was a prophet from the northern kingdom, and his prophecies were addressed to that region. All right, now when you read the book of Micah, Micah prophesied to, really he prophesied to both kingdoms. He prophesied to Judah as well as to Samaria, which Judah represented the capital of or Jerusalem, I rather say, represented the capital of the southern kingdom, and Samaria represented the capital of the northern kingdom. As you know, in the history, the kingdom was split. And Isaiah he pretty much prophesied to the southern kingdom, but there were instances as well where he prophesied to the northern kingdom as well. All right, and Micah was around the 8th century. He was in the 8th century BCE. All right, and his name Micah. All right, which means who was like the Most High. All right, we'll get that real quick. All right, Micah, and Maya is like who, and then you got Ka is like, to a degree, then Yah, which is the Most High. So it's more so in a question like who was like the Most High. All right, because you got Micah Allah, which like Micah, like Michael is like he who was like the Most High, and then Micah, which is Micah, is like who is like the Most High in the phrase in the question. So it says the 6th in order from the minor prophets, a native of Morsheth. He prophesied during the reigns of Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah of Judah, and was contemporary with the prophets Hosea, Amos, and Isaiah. So I forgot to mention Amos as well too. So you had Isaiah, Hosea, Micah, and Amos, who all prophesied at the same, at the same time. There's even some accounts where it's mentioned to a degree that some of these prophets, like Micah, he could have possibly been to a degree like in Isaiah's camp. You know what I'm saying? Just like you had Baruch, who was an understudy or a scribe, if you will, of Jeremiah. But It says that he prophesied during the reigns of Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah of Judah. It was contemporary with the prophets Hosea, Amos, and Isaiah. And you can read about King Jotham, because he was I want to say that he was a son of Uzziah. All right, you had Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz. You had Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah. And when you read in Isaiah 1:1, for example, and this is just more so like a historical backdrop before I go into chapter 1. All right, this is Isaiah 1:1. It says the vision of Isaiah the son of Amos, which he saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah. So Isaiah was a little bit before Micah, but they did prophesy at the same time during the reign of kings Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah. And it's the same thing whenever you read in Hosea as well. Hosea 1:1. It says the word of Yahweh that came unto Hosea, the son of Beri, in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, and in the days of Jeroboam, the son of Joash, king of Israel. You see that? So Hosea was even earlier than Micah was too. But they all prophesied at the same time. It's just, Isaiah was primarily to the southern kingdom. Micah prophesied to both, and Hosea prophesied to the northern kingdom. And Amos, let's see, did Amos, which kingdom did Amos? I want to say he prophesied to the southern kingdom as well too. Prophesied to northern kingdom, Salaki. All right, I just want to make sure I'm giving the correct information. Amos's prophecies were directed toward the northern kingdom. What was directed toward the northern kingdom of Israel, specifically to the cities of Samaria and Bethel. Oh, you know what? That's right. I think it says that in the 4th chapter. It says, although Amos was from Judah, that's what it was. He was from Judah, but he prophesied to the northern kingdom. Although Amos was from Judah, he was called by the Most High to prophesy to the northern kingdom about its sins and impending judgment. All right, and he was he prophesied at the same time. Okay, and during this time, whenever Micah, whenever Micah prophesied to, all right, whenever Micah did prophesy to the northern and the southern kingdom, you had a lot of geopolitical things that were taking place at this time. You had the Assyrian Empire. They in 722 BC, they took the northern kingdom into captivity to Assyria. You can read about that in 2 Kings, the 17th chapter. And as well as they took the northern kingdom into captivity, they were even moving in on the southern kingdom too. And that's when you read about Hezekiah's prayer that he prayed to the Most High, through in Isaiah as well. I want to say that's in Isaiah the 36th chapter, if I'm not mistaken. How they prayed and the Lord sent an angel. The Lord sent an angel to smite and to kill off the Assyrian armies, because they came boasting, talking about how the Lord wasn't going to do anything, and then the Lord pretty much lifted up a standard at that time. You see, but also at this time too, you had a lot of social injustice that was taking place within Israel. You had a lot of corruption, as you see corruption taking place within Israel today. And when I say within Israel, I mean within the people of Israel. You have leaders that rule, that rule by their own means, as it's written. You have a lot of false prophets, and then also too, you had idolatry that began to run rampant. Specifically during the times of King Ahaz. Now when Hezekiah came, he did do a reform. But Ahaz was, if not, he was like the most wicked king of the southern kingdom. And even during the reign of King Jotham, Jotham did right in the eyes of the Lord, but Israel still did corruptly at that time. And you can get this history if you read, for example, like 2 Kings, starting in like chapter 26 and all the way through 32. It gives the history on those those kings that ruled, so you can see what was going on. You can read about what was going on geopolitically at that time, who was coming up against Israel at that time, what was going on, as to why the prophets said particular things in the way that they said it. just to give you a better understanding of whenever you read the prophets. But also keep in mind, the prophecies, were written for things that were happening around that time, as well as times that are coming today. That's why the scriptures tell you that you got to be a spiritual, you got to spiritually discern, and Yahweh Bashem Al-Shai has to reveal his secrets unto you. Unto you. Okay, but without further ado, we're going to read the first chapter. All right, and we're going to jump into it. It says, Micah 1:1. It says, the word of Yahweh that came to Micah the Morishite in the days of Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, which he saw concerning Samaria and Jerusalem. And once again, Samaria was the capital of the northern kingdom, and Jerusalem was the capital of the southern kingdom. All right, it says, hear, all ye people, hearken, O earth, and all that is therein, and let the Lord Yahweh be witness against you, the Lord from his holy temple. All right, and where is his holy temple? His holy temple is in the heavens. I remember the scripture said, he said, heaven is my throne and the earth is my footstool. So, Yahweh Bashem Al-Shai, his eyes are upon, his eyes are upon everything that takes place. The scripture says that the eyes of the Lord run to and fro. Damn, there's a big ass crash over here. Shit. Damn. Man, airbags deployed. Shit. Anyways, it says, verse 3, it says, for behold, Yahweh cometh forth out of his place, and will come down and tread upon the high places of the earth. You see that? And this is really right here. This verse 3 is really a future prophecy. Because when the judgment came upon Judah as well as upon Jerusalem, all right, he brought the heathen as his implement of judgment. As it says in Isaiah the 10th chapter. Let me get it real quick just to prove, because the Lord uses the heathen to bring forth his judgment upon his people, but this time the Lord is actually going to come down via Yahweh Shai and the Holy Host. Okay, this is Isaiah 10 just to prove the point how the Lord uses the heathen for judgment. All right, this is Isaiah chapter 10 verse 5. It says, O Assyrian, the rod of mine anger and the staff in their hand is mine indignation. See that? I will send him against an hypocritical nation, and against the people of my wrath will I give him a charge, to take the spoil and to take the prey, and to tread them down like the mire of the streets. And that actually happened. That actually happened whenever the Assyrians was expanding their empire. Once again, like I stated earlier, they took the northern kingdom into captivity, and they actually made moves on the southern kingdom as well. When you read about King Ahaz, as a matter of fact, just to back up what I'm saying, let me get something real quick. Let me see if I can find it real quick here. I'm gonna pause it real quick and I'm coming right back. Just give me 1 second. Okay, here it is. This is I wanted to just get the account of history. Now, when you read 2 Kings, the 28th chapter, this goes into the reign of King Ahaz. And once again, King Ahaz was he was an extremely wicked king. You know what I'm saying? Now, Judah did have righteous kings too that ruled, but even when you go into the northern kingdom, there was no king. There was no king of the northern kingdom. All right, that ruled righteously. All right, so this is once again just backing up the point. Now, remind you, you had Isaiah, Micah, Hosea, and Amos at this time prophesying, so you can kind of get a better view on why the particular judgments were spoken. Right? This is 2 Chronicles 28, and we'll start at verse 16. It says, at that time did King Ahaz send unto the kings of Assyria to help him. Okay, and it's always been a problem with our people, is that they would always go to the heathen for help versus trusting in Yahweh Bashem Al-Shai for help. You see, because the heathen would always the heathen would, they would make a deal. They will make deals, I rather say, with the heathen. And as they would make the deals with the heathen would eventually turn on them. Like it says in Isaiah the 30th chapter, woe unto them that go down to Egypt for help. For Egypt will be like a hand, like a broken reed that will pierce your hand. And you got Jake doing the same thing today. Trusting in America, trusting in the system, trusting in Esau, in the government. It's the same things that go on today. There's nothing new. There's nothing new under the sun, as it's written. All right. It says, for again the Edomites had come and smitten Judah and carried away captives. And And I want to say when you get this word Edomite here, I just want to verify. I want to say that it might be Arawum. It might be a clerical error. I know they've been updating the Blue Letter Bible lately. All right, it says, let's see. Yeah, see H26 and Edomite are descended. But when you go to H26 here, it says what? Arawumya, which is the Syrians. All right, so it's not actually talking about. It's not actually talking about the Syrians here. It's actually, the Edomites. It's actually talking about the Syrians, because even when you read up, it talks about how the king of Syria came up against Judah. You know, so that's why that's why it's important to go into these words and to make sure that the correct terminology is being broken down here, right? So it says Edom there, but it's a clerical error, and it really should say Syrians, right? It says, for again, the Edomites had come and smitten Judah and carried away captives. It says the Philistines also invaded the cities of the Low Country and of the south of Judah, and had taken Beth Shemesh and Ajalon and Gederoth and Shoko with the villages thereof. All right, it says Gimzo also in the villages thereof, and they dwelt there. It says, for Yahweh brought Judah low because of Ahaz, king of Israel. You see, he was doing wickedly. So what did the Lord do? He brought forth the heathen. He brought forth the heathen nations to implement his judgment. You see, so he pretty much brought the heathen to begin to vex Israel, right? And when I say Israel, I mean Judah. It says, for he made Judah naked and transgressed sore against Yahweh. And what does that naked mean? Does that mean that they were actually running around butt naked? I mean, yeah, he probably really did too have people doing that because it was some freakism. But no, it means to be made naked. All right, pretty much means to be laid open and to not have any covering, because they started worshiping after the gods of the heathen. All right, when you get that word naked here in verse 19, like where it says pretty much that when Moses was receiving the commandments, and he said the Most High pretty much told Moses to get down from the mountain because the people of Israel are naked. That means when Aaron he made the golden calf. Pretty much they didn't have any covering. That word naked is parai. All right, that word is parai. And it says here, hold on one second here. Show lack of restraint. You see that? To show a lack of restraint. And the lack of restraint goes into ultimately idolatry. They wasn't restraining themselves to serve Yahweh B'Shem Al Shai, and they were open to any kind of idol, and to any kind of way. You see? It says, let me read verse 19 again. It says, for Yahweh brought Judah low because of Ahaz, king of Israel. For he made Judah naked and transgressed sore against Yahweh. Until Tilgath-Pileser, king of Assyria, came unto him and distressed him, but strengthened him not. See? Let's read this in the NLT. So when King Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria arrived, he attacked Ahaz instead of helping him. You see that? Verse 21 back in the NLT, or back in the KJV. For Ahaz took away a portion out of the house of Yahweh and out of the house of the king and of the princes, and gave it unto the king of Assyria, but he helped him not. So he pretty much gave him, he took valuable items from the temple, from the royal places, homes, and he gave them to the king of Assyria as a tribute, but it didn't ultimately help him. You see, because ultimately at the end of the day, he was going off. And this is what a lot of these judgments that you read, this is what Micah was talking about. Of course, but you tie it into today's time too for future judgment. Verse 3, it says, for behold, Yahweh cometh forth out of his place, and will come down and tread upon the high places of the earth, which is this is talking about the judgment that's getting ready to take place. It says, and the mountains shall be molten under him, and the valley shall be cleft, as wax before the fire, and as the waters that are poured down a steep place, letting you know that this has not happened yet. You see, when the Lord and this precept here in the 4th chapter, it lines up with Habakkuk, the 3rd chapter, when Yahweh, the visual description of the Lord coming back in the chariots. You know, Malachi the 4th chapter and the 3rd chapter. Nahum 1. This is the judgment that's to come whenever Yahweh Shai actually returns. It says, for the transgression of Jacob is a, for the transgression of Jacob, for the transgression of Jacob is all this. For the transgression of Jacob is all this, and for the sins of the house of Israel. What is the transgression of Jacob? Is it not Samaria? And what are the high places of Judah? Are they not Jerusalem? Which are what? The capitals, right? Therefore will I make Samaria as an heap of the field, and as the plantings of a vineyard. So pretty much he's saying, I'm gonna lay the northern tribe waste, which he did do. You know, whenever Shalmaneser the 5th came through, all right, and took down the northern tribes and put them into captivity. It says, and I will pour down the stones thereof into the valley, and I will discover the foundations thereof. And all the graven images thereof shall be beaten to pieces, and all the hires thereof shall be burned with the fire, and all the idols thereof will I lay desolate. For she gathered it of the hire of an harlot, and they shall return to the hire of an harlot. So pretty much just as, you know, Jake was thinking that, you know, worshiping after these idols, they was having the crops. You know, they had crops growing and things of that nature. So they was praising their idols for it, not praising Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai. Right? Verse 8, it says, therefore I will wail and howl. I will go stripped and naked. I will make a wailing like the dragons, and mournings as the owls. For her wound is incurable. You see, and that's why the Lord has to do that's why the Lord has to do a great reset when it comes to Jake, man. There is going to be a great reset. And the great reset's whenever the 2/3 are purged out, the rebels is purged out, and the Lord starts new. You know, beginning with the 144,000 in the elect, and the 2/3 coming back through the loins of the elect. You know, because it pretty much echoes the same thing. You know, Isaiah pretty much echoed the same thing, because it said that the wound is incurable, right? This is Isaiah chapter 1, verse 5. It says, why should you be stricken anymore? You will revolt more and more. The whole head is sick, and the whole heart faint. See that? And the head is going into what? You know, the head is going into the top. You know, because without the head, you can't do anything. So it says the whole head is sick, and the whole heart or mind is faint. It says, from the sole of the foot even unto the head, there is no soundness in it, but wounds and bruises and putrefying sores. They have not been closed, neither bound up, neither mollified with ointment. And the only way that you can be mollified with ointment, all right, is turning back to Yahweh Shai, with him being the physician. That's the only way that you can be mollified with ointment, you know, and having the oil of gladness is being turned back to this knowledge, man, the gospel. All right. Verse 10, back in Micah 1, it says, declare ye it not at Gath, weep ye not at all. In the house of Apra, roll thyself in the dust. And you know, Gath was a city in Philistine, you know, was a city of the Philistines. Apra was in Judah, right? It says, pass ye away, thou inhabitant of Saphir, having thy shame naked. It says, the inhabitant of Zanan came not forth into the morning of Bethesel. He shall receive of you his standing. And these are all cities of Judah. For the inhabitant of Morath waited carefully for good. Pretty much waiting for a good response, right? It says, but evil came down from Yahweh into the gate of Jerusalem. See, and this is the judgment that's going out to Israel, man. It says, O thou inhabitant of Lachish, bind the chariot to the swift beast. She is the beginning of the sin. She is the beginning of the sin to the daughter of Zion. See, as it says here, you were the first city in Judah to follow Israel in her rebellion. I'm reading this in the NLT to the right. And you led Jerusalem into sin. You see that? It says you was the first city to do that, right? Therefore shalt thou give presents to Morshagath, which was a city in Goth, right? The houses of Exib shall be a lie to the kings of Israel. Because you had the false prophets that was over there. See? Verse 15, yet will I bring an heir unto thee, O inhabitant of Mersha. He shall come unto Adullam, the glory of Israel. And the glory of Israel represents the leadership. You see? And this is really going into the history of of the northern not the northern tribe of the kings of Assyria coming in and bring forth the judgment. Verse 16, it says, make thee bald and poll thee for thy delicate children, which goes into what? Mourning. You will cut your hair and you will put on sackcloth and mourning, to represent that you're mourning, right? So it says, make thee bald and poll thee for thy delicate children. Enlarge thy baldness as the eagle, for they are gone into captivity from thee. And this is figuratively talking about Israel, as a woman, and the children talking about the people, because we actually did go into captivity, But even if you want to go into it spiritually, all right, yeah, we would go into captivity in Babylon, but that's where the Lord would deliver us out of Babylon. He would deliver us out of captivity from there. And that Babylon is talking about here. And you read that in Micah, the 4th chapter. You see? But I knew the first chapter wasn't going to be too long. Not too many precepts will be pulled just due to the fact of the historical context. But Lord willing, this was edifying. Like I said, I'll continue to go through these chapters. And next we'll go into chapter 2. All right. But once again, I pray this was edifying to the elect. Once again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem HaKadosh. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone that taught us his truth and that's teaching his truth. And much peace, love, and salutation to the elect. Until next time, Lord willing, I say shalom.